Okay, so let's do 14. And I'll let you guys help me out too. Okay, so we're going to create a class named Purchase. And so when you read this, you kind of have to think in your head. So you have a class called Purchase. Okay, that's the file. We're going to call it Purchase.java. And each purchase, so when you instantiate a new purchase object, right? So each purchase contains an invoice number. So these are your properties. Okay, so we have a variable name called invoice number, one for amount of sale and amount of sales tax. So basically we have three fields, right? And then include set methods for the invoice number and sale amount. Okay. Notice it only asks for two, right? The methods for the sale amount and invoice number. And then so within the set method for the sale amount, calculate the sales tax as 5% of the sale amount. Okay, so in this example here, we're actually setting the value for the sales tax through the set method for no, what is this? Don't show this again. I'm okay where I have. Okay, so we're going to calculate the sales tax inside the method for when we set the sale amount. So we're not going to have a separate method to calculate the sales tax. They include the display method to display the purchase details. Okay, so we're going to display the invoice number, the sales tax, and also the sale amount. So that's the first thing we do. Okay, so let's do that. I'm going to the code here. I'm going to close this and create a new class inside here. So we have new class. This is chapter 6, number 14. Actually, no, sorry. It should say purchase, right? Yeah, purchase. And again, class name is always capitalized, a convention. And this is just a class. It doesn't have the static main here. So we have our class, our purchase class here. And it has a invoice number. So invoice number, let's see what it says. Invoice number, I was looking either a string or a number. So if you read part B, it says, so declare a purchase object and ask the user, prompts the user for the details. The prompt for the invoice number, do not let the user continue until number between 1 and 8,000 has been entered. So the invoice numbers are really just integer type. Okay, so it's asking for integer type. So we're going to ask, and create an integer type of, well, this would be like private, right? Private integer invoice num, and we'll leave that blank. So that's our first field. What's our second field? So the sale amount and the sales tax. Okay, so those are, again, the sale amount will be, I guess that's be a double, right? And same thing for the tax because those are decimal values. Okay, so we have another private double sale amount, and we have another for double will be like sales tax. Okay. And then we're going to create two set methods for the invoice and the sale amount. Right, so we're going to create the set methods for invoice and the sale amount. So the set for the invoice should be easy. This will be like public. We're just setting the values, we're not returning, so this will be like your setter for the invoice number. So just a set invoice num, and I'm going to pass the int of the invoice num to this setter, and we're going to assign the value to this invoice up here, I'm using the same variable names just so that you get used to using the word this. Okay. Also, just so that they are in alignment with the variable name here. You can call it X, it doesn't matter, but as you get more and more complex, as the program gets more complex, you have more data to play with, then you want to make sure you are referencing the same number or same variable name here. So we'll say this invoice num equals this local invoice num. We're just basically setting the value past this function here, and we'll set the value to that number. So that's our setters. And then okay, so this is pretty just your normal setters. And then typically we'll do the same for the amount, right? The sale amount. So we say public void set sale amount. We're going to pass the sale amount. In this case, will be a double sale amount. Okay. So we're going to again this sale amount equals sale amount. Okay, this is your setter for your sale amount. So what does it ask you to do? It asks us to, in the set method for this sale amount, we want to calculate the sales tax as 5% of the sale amount. That's our sales tax. Okay, so the tax rate is 5%, and then what is the sales tax for that? Based on amount, it's going to be 5%. So how do we do that? In here it says so will be what? This sales tax equals, how do we do this? What's the 5% tax of the sale amount? Right, so 0.05 times sale amount, right? So that's going to give our 5% sales tax of the amount. Okay, so notice here again, in this example, this is fine because it said so, but we usually put this into a variable name, right? We set this as a constant. So we can fix that by doing something like this. I mean, it will be more correct to do it this way. So we can say public final double, and then we say tax rate equals 0.05, right? And then we'll reference this down here instead. So later, if we change the text here, it changes everywhere else. Okay, it doesn't ask you to do that, but if you do this way, if I have to ask you to do this assignment, I mean, I wouldn't mark this wrong. I would just say, great idea, right? This is how you should do it. Try not to hard code your code anywhere in your code. If you don't have to, don't use a variable name to store those data. Your hard code area should only be in the variable declarations here. Sometimes even in here you might have used another variable name to replace the value. You know, instead of just a hard coding here, I could use a variable name here as well. So unless this is like the only place where the data gets to this variable name, then you hard code it there. Otherwise, keep going up the chain until you get to the source. Okay. Well, for now, let's just redo that. So we got the sales tax. So since we just set the sales tax, we don't need to get the set sales tax method, because we do it inside here, right? You could do it separately. I mean, again, that's just one way. You could say set sell tax, and then in here you could call the set sell tax, and you pass this amount to the sell tax, and then you process it that way inside the set sell tax. Okay, that's another way. But that's good for this one. So we got this part taken care of, and then we include display method to display a purchase detail. So include a display method, right? Just one display method to display all the information. So going to have another public here. It's a void. We'll just say display, details or something. We're not passing any data to it because all the data are available here in the local class here. So we could just say things like system.out.print, and we just say invoice number is, and then this dot invoice now. We've got the invoice number. If you want to be creative, you can format this really nicely with the horizontal rule and then make them look nice, but this will do. It's going to have just 3 of them. So I have the invoice number, I have the sale amount, and then we put that here. So sale amount, and again we'll put a $ in front, right? It's a dollar. And then this is the sales text. And then we put notice is want to align these. We can use the spaces here. You can use the tab. We do tab key. Look at that tab 3 times or 2 times. The /T is the tab. If you want to do that, sometimes that helps. And so here's our information here. I think that's it for this class, right? Display the purchase details. So we're done for this one. Let's move on to the next one. So the next one is a class called CreatePurchase.java. Okay, so let's create the class. And I'm going to go and create another class here. So I'll do the shortcut. What's it called again? CreatePurchase. This is the main application, so we will include the static void main. Then now we create a purchase object. Okay, so it says create an application that declares a purchase object and then prompts the user for purchase details. So we're going to prompt for an invoice number between 1 and 8,000, 1,000, 8,000 only. It says, do not let the user proceed until a number between 1,000 and 8,000 has been entered. So if you are out of this range, you should get the repeating message come back and again, right, until you meet the criteria here. So again, that's a loop here. And then we get that done. Then you move to the next is you prompt again for a sale amount. Again, do not proceed until the user has entered a non-negative value. Okay? So if it's a negative value, it keeps asking for a correct number. So let's do that here. So we have to create a purchase object called purchase. Call it just P is fine, whatever you want. And it's a new purchase. We call it purchase class. So we instantiate an object called purchase. And then now we also need to get the a scanner class to read the input. Oops, and import this class into the class here. So now we're going to read the input into the purchase dot invoice number, right? We want to add that to the invoice number here. So we could create some temp variable here. We could just say PO or PN, PNUM, I don't know, is equal to input dot next int. So usually this is what you do, right? You say next int until you get the correct input from the user, but we want to put this into a loop, so it's going to loop through this whole this until we get the correct value. So this is what we want to do. We want to read the input to the input number here. Okay, so that's the idea. So before we do this, I'm going to do something like, let's do this first. I want to declare we need input the purchase number, we need the sales amount, and then I think that's it, right? No, purchase number, the sales is going to be a double, sale amount, double. So let's just do the, so get purchase number, okay? And we will do a loop here. So we'll have a while loop, usually a while loop or for loop, or which one do we use? While loop, for loop, or do while loop. 3 of those options. What would be the best option here? So I think it will be either a while or a do while, right? We're going to ask the user to input the data, and then we will check it until we have the correct value. If it's not, keep repeating that. So we'll do the do while, do, and then because the first thing is we ask the user to enter a data, and then while something is not, well, something is true or false, we'll put that in here. So the input will be in here. The first thing is we're going to say system out print enter a purchase or invoice number, right? Invoice number between 1,000 and 8,000. It can be as clear as you want to be so the user understands. Okay, so we have that prompt the user enter a number, and then we will read into the P number. Could call it invoice number, but okay. And then we'll check it down here. Right, so really we don't want to assign the value here unless it's between 1,000 and 8,000. We only assign it when it's falling that area. So we could say now if well, actually no, that's fine. So pnum is that. Let's say if pnum, right, how would you do this? You want to verify, make sure it's not
Less than 1,000, right? Yeah, less than 1,000.
okay, so we could test in the condition here, right?
Yeah.
So let's say pnum is less than, okay, keep doing this while this is true. That's what it means. Right, so if it's less than 1,000, or pnum, yeah, right, greater than 8,000, then keep asking that question to enter the correct number until this is false, right? Is that right? So while the number is less than 8,000, less than 1,000, or is greater than 8,000, then we want to repeat the loop, right? If it's between here, then this will be both a false, so therefore it will exit out of the loop. Okay?
I think it's the other way around, right? The number's supposed to be between 1,000 and 8,000.
Is that inclusive or not inclusive? Yeah, between 1,000 and 8,000. I think that's that's inclusive, right? So if it's like 999, then it wouldn't. It will keep repeating that. Okay, so let's see if that works. And just to test it out, we'll put another system here just to print out the test. Something like that. So we know that it's actually working. Otherwise, we have an infinite loop. And then we'll see if that's what we get. So let's see. We run this. Ask for 1,000. If I put 500, it should prompt me again, right? And then if I put 8,001, right? Now if I put like 5,000, you get yay. Okay? So it's within that range. So that's good for that part. And then now we can do the second part, which is kind of same thing. Ask for the sale amount and not to proceed until user enters a non-negative value. So it has to be a positive value only. So same thing here. We could just copy this and put it here. So enter a positive sale amount. So something like that. Okay. And then we'll put the sale amount here equal the this will be like well, what, double, next double, and then we'll do the same thing down here until what? How do we check this? Positive amount. So if it's negative, you keep asking. Yeah, greater equal 0, right? Okay. Are you sure? Yeah, less than 0. The other way around. If it's negative, then we want to repeat.
Oh,
Yeah, we'll get the positive number only. So we're including, let's just say positive number, we will just say not including 0. A cell number greater than or equal to 1. Okay, so it doesn't include 0, just to be a little bit clear. So we can say now while the sale amount is less than 0, or less than or equal 0, if we keep asking for a number greater than 0, and that should work. Okay, so we're going to have a positive number greater or equal to 1, and then we'll have that result. Alright, so once those two are done, and then we want to assign the values to the purchase dot something, right? Both of these passed, and therefore only those are passed, then we're going to go and purchase, do purchase dot set invoice number. We're going to pass the PN number to that. Okay. And we do the same for set sale amount, passing the sale amount to that function. So we're going to pass this to the PNUM, invoice number, and then this is going to do the not just the sale amount, but also does the calculation for us. And then finally, we just display the information back to the user. So display details, right? So all the logic are set inside the purchase class. We do the display here, the calculations all done here. We set the variables in here. All we do is pass the data to this function to set the invoice number, pass the amount to this, and then we do the sales tax here, and then we display information here. All done in the purchase class. None is done here. Here only we get the input here. I could again use a function to read the data here, instead of having to read in this direction, in this location here. So let's see. So let's run this. So amount between 1,000, we'll just say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's too big. 1, 2, 3, 4. Sale amount will be, let's just say $50.45. And there it is up information. So invoice number 1, 2, 3, 4. Sale amount 50 to 45, and the sales tax is, well, that's not correct. Is it correct?
I think our purchase, it doesn't have the 5%.
Oh, we did.
You put it,
Okay.
duplicated it twice.
All right. Where is it? Oh, right here. Who caught that? Didn't tell me. Okay, so this will be the sales tax. Oh goodness, that's it's expensive. So the sales tax. So let's run this again. 5555 123.45, and the sales tax is, here it is. Lots of digits. How do we fix that? So only two decimal place. But that is the correct number, I'm assuming. And to format this, then of course this way it doesn't work because of the output here. The output here is just say to print, and we do this with decimal numbers. That's what you get if you run to this many values. Okay, so one way to solve this, actually these two here, is by to use the Printf function. Okay, so we could replace these two lines here with this two. I'm going to comment these two out. And you know, if you want to format your output, especially with numbers, decimal numbers, then you can use the printf function. Okay, with the thing with that is that it doesn't have the print line, so you have to add the /n in there to produce that new line. So I'm going to print the sale amount, and then after the $sign, I want to put a percent dot. A decimal number will be 2 decimal places. F is for float. Okay, and then put a comma, and then not the plus, but the. This is a placeholder. The $sign dot 2F means it's a float number with 2 decimal places, and then I'm gonna fill this number with this value. That's what it means. Okay, so we'll do the same here. 2F, and then replace it with the sales tax. But as you can see, it won't produce that new line. I don't think. Let's try this again. So 333, 12.5. So it prints on the same line, right? You want to break that into a new line. So to do that, then in your code here, you have to either put over here after the sale amount, or you can put in the front here /n, right? So if you do that, or you over here, just say now we have it right here. After the value, put a /n here. Why not over here? Why not this? Okay. It won't work because this is a different function, printf. It's different from the println here. Okay, so all your text will be in the front here. This front will be all your text here. The second parameter here will be just your variable names to fill those placeholders. So the first placeholder here refers to this one here. If I have another one here, percent that 2F or 3F, then I have to have another amount to go here. So I'll put a comma here. I could just say, you know, something like that. So this amount goes to the second placeholder. This is the first placeholder. So you kind of have to like think how you want to put this into that placeholder. Okay. And then followed by the end of the string here. I could say something else here, whatever it is. Right? It's going to look for the $sign. I mean the percent dot something, and put that amount in that place, and then another one, and so on. So after that, it's just your regular string text. Okay, so that's when you put the /n at the end of that placeholder. you can put that here. And you can do the same here, so it goes to a new line. Okay, so if you to run this again, so you can see that now has the new line and not formatted with 2 decimal places. Okay, questions? Okay, so just make sure you review the loops in chapter 6. I think mainly chapters 4, 3, and 4 are your, I think 4 and 5. 4 and 5 are the classes and objects. So make sure you understand how to create classes, instantiate an object out of those classes. And so I'm not going to ask you really complicated ones like this sandwich example. I mean, that won't be an exam for sure. Okay, that's a little bit too much to put on an exam. But I will ask something like this. Okay, I will ask you like, here is a class called Purchase or something, and then here's the main program. Okay, so like this Purchase class here could be already created for you, available for you to use. And then here I might say, here's a class of this information here, the setters and getters and so on, all created here. And then I give you a blank. It might look something like this, right? Just blank, like that. And I say, instantiate an object called Purchase or P2, okay? And then get the data to those variables and then print them out or something like that. So how do you go from doing that from here? Okay, so just something like that. And so that would be an example. Another, I may ask you to do something like this. I say, okay, create a class called Purchase, and just like the one example, has 3 fields, this and this and this and that, and then you have to build a constructor. A constructor will accept, the values for these fields, set these values, something like that. So just make sure you know how to create the constructor and set those data. Okay, and the question will be like, what is the constructor, and what is it used for, right? So constructor is used to create objects. Okay, without a constructor, you cannot create objects. So without a constructor, you cannot do this. You cannot do this line here. Okay. The new keyword here means to create a new object called Purchase, and then of the type Purchase, which is the data type here. And notice we don't have the constructor here, but behind the scene, you will see that Java actually creates one for us. It's called Purchase, but the same name, and just the empty Purchase, like that. Okay. And if you don't supply, then Java will provide one. And once you supply, then yours will override Java's. Okay, it takes over Java's default Purchase. And so if I ask you to fill those data, then you will put those 3 parameters in here to match these parameters, and then set the data in here to fill these values. Okay, any other questions? If not, I think I'm good to, we can stop here. If you have any questions during the week, just shoot me an email, okay? I'll be more happy to answer your questions. Anything's not clear in the assignments or in your readings, again, just let me know. I'm more than happy to explain further. Otherwise, good luck on your studies, and don't stress out. Okay, it's not going to be as hard as you think. If you've done your assignments, then I think you should be good with the midterm. All right, see you next week.